Sammy the squirrel was a cheerful fellow. He had a bright, bushy tail and a twinkle in his eye that made everyone smile. Sammy was known for his playful antics and his love for adventure. Every morning he would wake up with the sun, ready to explore the wonders of the forest. He lived in a beautiful forest, filled with vibrant colors and the sweet sounds of nature. The forest was his playground, and he knew every nook and cranny of it. From the babbling brooks to the hidden meadows, Sammy had explored it all. The trees were tall and strong, their branches reaching high into the sky. They provided shade and shelter for all the forest creatures. Sammy loved to climb these trees, feeling the rough bark under his tiny paws as he scampered up to the highest branches. The sun shone through their leaves, casting a warm golden glow on the forest floor. It was a magical sight, and Sammy often paused to admire the beauty around him. The sunlight made the leaves sparkle and the whole forest seemed to come alive.
"I love to play," Sammy would exclaim with joy. His laughter echoed through the trees as he darted around, playing games and having fun. He was always full of energy, never tiring of his playful pursuits.
He would scamper up the trees, his nimble feet making quick work of the climb. From the top, he could see the entire forest, a sea of green stretching out before him. It was his favorite place to be, high above the ground, where he felt free and alive. He would chase his tail around the branches, spinning in circles until he was dizzy. It was a silly game, but it made him laugh, and that was all that mattered. The other animals would watch him with amusement, their own laughter joining his. Sometimes he would hide nuts and then find them again. It was like a treasure hunt, and Sammy loved the thrill of the search. He had secret hiding spots all over the forest, and he took great pride in remembering where each one was. All the other animals loved Sammy. He was a friend to everyone, always ready to lend a helping hand or share a kind word. His cheerful nature was infectious, and he made the forest a happier place just by being there. He was always so full of joy. No matter what the day brought, Sammy faced it with a smile. His positive attitude was a beacon of light in the forest, and it inspired others to be happy too. He made the forest a happier place. His presence was a gift, and the other animals cherished their time with him. They knew that with Sammy around, there was always fun to be had and adventures to embark on.
Look at Sammy go! He's always so energetic. Whether he was running through the forest or climbing trees, Sammy was always on the move. His boundless energy was a source of wonder for the other animals, who often marveled at his stamina.
One day, Sammy was playing a game of tag. It was one of his favorite games, and he was always eager to play. The forest was the perfect place for a game of tag, with plenty of places to hide and lots of room to run. He was with his friend, Rosie the robin. Rosie was a small, red-breasted bird with a cheerful song. She and Sammy were the best of friends, and they loved spending time together. They made a great team, always looking out for each other. They were having so much fun. Their laughter filled the air as they chased each other through the trees. It was a perfect day, and they were making the most of it, enjoying every moment of their game.
"Tag, you're it, Rosie," Sammy called out, his voice full of excitement. Rosie chirped in response, flapping her wings as she tried to catch him. The game continued, their joy and laughter echoing through the forest, a testament to their friendship and the happiness they shared.
Suddenly, the sky grew dark. The once bright and cheerful sky was now covered with ominous clouds, casting a shadow over the entire forest. The animals sensed that something was terribly wrong. The wind began to howl, its eerie sound echoing through the trees. The leaves rustled and the branches swayed violently. The forest was alive with the sound of the approaching storm. The leaves on the trees rustled violently. A storm was coming. The animals in the forest began to seek shelter, knowing that they needed to find a safe place to wait out the storm.
"Oh no, what's happening?" Sammy the squirrel exclaimed, his tiny heart pounding in his chest. He had never experienced anything like this before.
Sammy looked up in alarm. The sky was a swirling mass of dark clouds and the wind was growing stronger by the second. He knew he had to act quickly. He had never seen a storm like this before. The clouds were so dark and menacing and the wind was so powerful. Sammy felt a sense of dread wash over him. He scurried down from his tree, his tiny paws barely gripping the bark as the wind threatened to blow him away. He needed to find shelter, and fast. He needed to find shelter. The wind was getting stronger, and the first drops of rain were beginning to fall. Sammy knew he had to find a safe place to wait out the storm.
"Sammy, I'm scared," Rosie the bird chirped, her voice trembling with fear. She had been caught in the storm and was struggling to find her way back to her nest.
Rosie was also frightened. She chirped loudly, her tiny wings flapping frantically as she tried to stay aloft in the strong wind. She tried to fly back to her nest, but the wind was too strong. She was being tossed around like a leaf in a storm, unable to control her flight. But the wind was too strong. Rosie was struggling to stay in the air, and Sammy watched in horror as his friend was blown further and further away. Sammy watched as Rosie struggled. He felt a surge of determination. He couldn't let his friend be swept away by the storm. He knew he had to help her. With a determined look in his eyes, Sammy began to formulate a plan. He had to find a way to save Rosie.
"Hang on, Rosie, I'll help you!" Sammy called out, his voice filled with determination. He reached out his paw, ready to do whatever it took to save his friend.
Sammy saw Rosie's nest high up in the oak tree. It was a cozy little home, nestled safely among the branches. The oak tree was tall and sturdy, its branches reaching out like protective arms. But today, something was wrong. A heavy branch had fallen during the last storm, blocking the entrance to Rosie's nest. Poor Rosie was trapped inside, unable to get out. The wind was whipping around fiercely, making the branches sway dangerously. Rain began to fall, first in gentle drops, then in a torrential downpour. The rain came down harder and harder, soaking everything in its path. Sammy's fur was drenched, but he didn't care.
"I need to be quick," he thought, his heart pounding in his chest.
Sammy knew he had to act fast. Time was running out, and Rosie's safety depended on him. He couldn't just leave Rosie out in the storm. She was his friend, and friends help each other in times of need. Rosie needed his help more than ever. He had to find a way to clear the branch and free her.
"Sammy, please hurry!" Rosie's tiny voice called out, filled with fear and desperation.
Sammy took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He needed to stay focused. He knew what he had to do. With determination in his eyes, he prepared to climb the tree and move the branch.
"I'm coming, Rosie," he shouted, his voice strong and reassuring. Sammy began to climb the oak tree. The wind and rain made it hard, but Sammy was determined. He wouldn't give up.
Up and up he climbed. He clung to the branches. He pulled himself higher and higher. Finally, he reached the fallen branch. It was heavy and slippery, but Sammy pushed and shoved. He used all his strength. Slowly, the branch began to move.
With a final shove, Sammy moved the branch.
Rosie flew into her nest. She was safe and sound. Sammy had saved her. The storm began to calm down. The wind died down. The rain slowed to a drizzle. The sun peeked out from behind the clouds.
Rosie poked her head out of her nest. She chirped happily at Sammy. She was so grateful to him.
All the other animals cheered for Sammy too. He was a true hero. Sammy had faced the storm. He had been brave and helped his friend. He had shown that even a small squirrel could have a big heart.
From that day on, Sammy was known throughout the forest for his courage. He had shown everyone that size doesn't matter.
What matters is the size of your heart.
And Sammy's heart was very big indeed.
Very big indeed.